before they came on as coordinators. And they're not all necessarily presidents. Our most recent addition to replace the Southern Alberta coordinator, he was just a director at large, but he was very good at the administrative stuff and following up with people and making sure things got done. So that's how we operate. So if I can kind of reverse it a little bit, the voice belongs to the people that demonstrate they know what they're talking about and proving it. And that can be any one of us. But if it's a bad idea, we're not going to be doing what we see our government doing, testing out theories and ideologies just because somebody wants it, right? So that's how Max is forming the party at the policy level and also the organizational level, and that's why I'm here. So if you have questions on the organizational front, you're more than welcome to talk to me, but I'm not the star of the show here. I'm not going to answer policy questions. I'm internal, but I am nearby, well, relatively nearby. I live just north of Calgary, so I work remotely. And I am here for our team. We're trying to make it easier. And currently, Kelly, the Western Canadian Lieutenant, is also acting as the regional coordinator for the province here. So he's expediting the administrative duties to get our associations up and running. So he will be part of it. And he will physically be here from time to time. So you're going to have support, right? So that's all I'll leave. And Joseph, back to you. That's all for me. Thanks, everyone.
Next, I would like to introduce our very busy man. He's travels, I like to call him Max's right-hand man because he's very busy doing great things for the PPC. So Kelly Lawrence, he's the lieutenant for Western Canada. I would like you to come up.
How's everybody doing? Good. So my name is Kelly Lawrence. I am this is a long title. So I'm the Western Canadian and Northern Territories Lieutenant for the People's Party of Canada. So my territory goes from Northern Ontario all the way to Vancouver Island and of course all of the Northwest Territories. And I've literally driven that span, with the exception of the Northwest Territories. I've driven it 3 times already. I've put about 40,000 kilometers on, meeting our teams, meeting our candidates, meeting our members, and just trying to build this association. And it's been fun. I've had a blast because I've had the opportunity to meet so many people. So a little bit about me and my background. I'm a veteran of the Canadian Armed Forces. I spent 13 years with federal corrections. I worked maximum security down to minimum security. I do have an opportunity to speak to Max an awful lot, and I do advise him on a lot of different issues when it comes to those different items. One of the things that I'm hearing a lot of is the fear. I'm going to just talk to you a moment about that fear. We have the fear of don't split the vote. We have the fear of we just got to get rid of Trudeau. We've heard that a number of times, and we still haven't gotten rid of him. We have the fear of COVID. It's a continual fear that we've been kept in for the last 2 years. And there's always going to be something else to fear. We're hearing it now. What do they call it now? Monkeypox or something? There's going to be always something else to fear. And one of the things that I've learned while working in federal corrections is when you're keeping somebody in perpetual fear, that's a predatory behavior, right? So we have national leaders, national parties that are acting in a predatory nature, keeping Canadians in fear. And the reason for that is when we're always in a constant state of fear, we don't think clearly, we don't make these decisions because we're doing everything based off an emotion. So we need to overcome that fear. So how do we do that? So I like to use this example. How many people here are afraid of heights? I know I'm afraid of heights. I live on the 3rd floor of a condo building. You'll never, ever, ever see me out on the deck. Ever. I'm one of those people that will go into, when I used to own a home, I would be splayed out on the roof and crawling along the roof to try and get to do the work on the roof. But the silly thing about that, when I was in the military, I used to jump out of planes for a living. I spent my whole time in the Airborne Regiment. And it was that courage to look outside of that fear and believe in the decisions that I was making. And we can, as a country, overcome this fear. We just need to get away from that predatory behavior. And that's what
here in Canada. But I'm not afraid, because it's not normal that in Canada we don't have any legislation on abortion. We don't have that. We're the only Western countries that did not have a legislation, but we don't have a legislation on abortion. You can have an abortion in Canada 2 hours before giving birth. For me, that's a murder. We must be able to have that discussion. And you must say, Maxime, it's not happening. Late-term abortion, it's not happening. Yes, it is happening. But the problem, we don't have the data. Provincial governments don't give us the data because they know if we have more information and more data, like COVID-19. Now we have all the data. We know that that virus was not deadly for the majority of the population. And we know that the vaccine didn't stop to catch and share the virus. So it's the same thing for abortion. They don't want us to know the details. But actually, we had the data in 2018. The Quebec government did a mistake. A journalist in 2018 asked the Quebec government about late-term abortion. And the bureaucrat said, yes, this year we had 20 women in Quebec that went to the US for an abortion, and the Quebec government paid for that. 20 because they were not able to find a doctor in Quebec to do the abortion because it was so late that that was a murder. They had to go to the US to do that. That's the reality. So let's have a debate about that. And I know that in our party we have pro-life candidates and pro-choice candidates. The party won't have a position on abortion. It's a personal matter. It's a question of conscience. But the party will have a free vote of that. Everybody must be free to vote after consultation and after having a debate on that subject. So personally, for me, I'm against the late-term abortion. I'm against sex selection abortion. And I'm for reopening the debate. And yes, I hope that one of our candidates elected will table a bill on abortion. And we need to have that discussion. But when I had that discussion, it's not new. In 2019, I had that discussion in Quebec during the electoral campaign at that time. And oh my God, that was a big scandal to speak about that. In Quebec, a huge majority of the population is pro-choice. So I did an interview with a lady, journalist, on a very big, the biggest radio station in Montreal. And that was about what I said. And we started the conversation. And I said, and I wanted to bring arguments. Why my idea to reopen the debate? And I said, I started the discussion with her. And I said, Canada is the only country that didn't have any legislation on abortion. I said, we don't have a legislation on abortion here. There's legislation everywhere in Western countries. And you cannot have an abortion in France or in Germany, or they don't allow late-term abortion, just for little exception. So when I said that, she changed the conversation and she told me, Maxime, okay, no, we don't have time for that interview, and you cannot speak about that. You cannot speak about that because you're a man. That was what she. I'm a man. I don't have the right to speak about that. That's why this debate is so. If you want to try to have the debate, you will be by the radical leftists. They don't want. You won't be able to have it. So we are doing politics differently. It's so important to have the debate. Same thing for euthanasia right now. You can have that. They're promoting that. You're sick in the hospital. Maybe the nurse will ask you, okay, we can give you that and that and that. And by the way, if you want to die, we can do that also. Today, when you be at your house or at work, just do one thing for me, please. Call here in Saskatchewan, call 811. When you call 811, it's for having assistance. You want to speak to a nurse. Call 811 and wait until the end. They're going to say, press 1 for that, press 2 for that. They're going to tell you, press 5 for assistant dying. They are promoting that. 811, they're supposed to be there to save your life, but no, they are offering you to die. Number 5, is it number 5 or 6? 5, number 5. Listen to that. Do it right now. That's why I'm telling you, we need to do that cultural war and speak about what we believe. And I need you for that. So we are able to grow because we are a common sense party. And so it's not only the conservatives who are supporting us. People coming from different political backgrounds, like NDP. And yes, they are coming. Because the NDP now is a woke organization. That's not the NDP of Ed Broadbent and Jack Layton. The NDP is not fighting for workers anymore. We are. We are, and we are there. We are a smart populist party, and we want change. That's another reason why we are doing politics differently. Because I'm telling you, and I said that publicly, if you like our ideas, I hope that you will support us. But if you don't like our ideas, please don't vote for us. I want change. I want tender to you to have your support. That's the way we are doing politics. And that's why we will always have the same platform, the same ideas. What I said in 2019 with our candidates, I said the same thing in 2021 with our candidates. We cannot and we are not helping the real refugees, the Christians that are in a Muslim country, in a camp somewhere where their life is in danger. These fake refugees are jumping the queue. It's not fair, it's not Canadian. And we have only 25% of our immigrants that are skilled immigrants that are coming here because a Canadian entrepreneur was not able to find a Canadian for that job. So he was able to go and to find an immigrant for that, and that person is coming here, they have a job, paying taxes, easier to integrate our society. So that we must have a sustainable immigration policy. But Poilievre and Trudeau and the NDP, they're working with the UN, and they agree with the UN Compact on migration. For the UN, migration is normal. Everybody can be a citizen of another country. You're a citizen of South Africa, for example. If you migrate to Canada, you must be able to be a citizen of our country. For the UN, there's no borders. It's open borders. For us, it's a privilege to be Canadian. And yes, we are open, and yes, we will welcome immigrants. Bad news is Election Canada is promoting and was promoting mail-in ballots. We must stop that. We must be able to vote in person with an ID, with your face. That's the only way. But Election Canada is promoting that, and the bad news is after the last election, Election Canada said that they were not able to count 200,000 votes. So if you want to participate, if you want to vote, that must be in person. So that's our position. And maybe I can add about that also, the electoral system. You may say, Maxime, with 5%, you didn't have anybody in parliament. Maybe we can have more proportionality in the system. You have 5% of the vote. You have 5% of the members of parliament. So yes, our goal is we like our electoral system. We can improve it a little bit, and we can put more proportionality in that system. I think it would be a better electoral system. We are working on that also. Thank you.
Well, I just want to know why Elections Canada is sitting on those mail-in ballots. I mean, I don't agree with it at all.
I don't know why also. That's why we must not allow that.
Right.
Yes?
The question is how?
How what?
How do we stop that?
Oh, we stop that? A lot of people right now don't know that Election Canada did that. We must speak about that. You know, I told you, we were able to move the public opinion. by informing people about COVID-19. Now we have more people that are saying no to the vaccine, and they understand. That's all about the public opinion. That's our job. So we must inform, and more people, when they will do a poll and a survey, and they will say, oh, 75% of the population don't want mail-in ballots, these politicians will change. That's why the battle, our goal is to change the public opinion. The battle to move the public opinion. But there's another battle also. The battle in the court. That's another one that is very important. Just about COVID-19. You know, I had a case with Brian Petford because I was not allowed to travel freely across our country without being vaccinated. The vaccine passport for Canadian travelers. It was and it is illegal, unconstitutional, immoral, and now we are suing the federal government. And the September 21, we will be in the court in Ottawa fighting that. Why it's important to do that? Because, you know, I said that the last 2 years, all that was unconstitutional, but I was not able to stop the federal government or any provincial government. We just need one decision from one judge that's gonna say all that was illegal and unconstitutional, and that will be a legal precedent, and they won't be able to impose any more draconian measures on us. That's why that battle in the court is important. The vaccine passport for Canadian travelers is not enforced right now, but it can come back. So we need to have that decision. And that's another battle that I'm doing with the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms. And so we can win by changing and moving the public opinion and by doing battles in the court.
Can I answer that? Yep. That's my favorite question, is how. And Max and I both gave you that answer. Okay. Balance of power is a strong one. But even stronger than that is the PPC insurance policy to hold these governments accountable and make the changes that we need as Canadians to ensure a fair and democratic process. Because if you have that insurance policy in Ottawa with the PPC, we can make changes as Canadians. But we have to stand fast on how we go about that.
Yes?
I have a question. I'm glad that you brought up about Brian Peckford.
Yeah.
I have not heard you say that in the Charter of Rights, the words "the supremacy of God" has been removed.
Yeah.
So, my question is, what is your stand as far as the supremacy of God for this country? And thirdly, or secondly, the present government, you might say, is working with the WHO and the WEF, the Club of Rome, to destroy this country and to destroy our population and to destroy our politics and our Christian ethical rights.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking. I didn't have time to speak about that just before the questions, but I did another rallies, and yes, you're right, in our Bill of Rights that John Diefenbaker tabled in the House and passed in the House in the 1960s, the preamble of the Bill of Rights is this country has been built on the supremacy of God and the rule of law. And in our Charter of Rights, we have the rule of law, but we don't have the supremacy of God. You're right about that. And for me, I'm a Christian, and I'm proud of my Christian heritage. And yes, when I'm saying Western civilization values, I'm thinking about Judeo-Christian values. That's about the same. That's why we are saying if somebody wants to come to Canada, we'll need to have an interview, and that person will need to share our values. That's part of our platform, that's part of our program. And but supremacy of God, absolutely. The rule of law. Are we living in a country, under the rule of law? No. No, just look what happened with COVID-19. What is the rule of law? The rule of law is everybody is equal before the law. That's the rule of law. But no, the last 2 years, you had some Canadians who had more rights and other Canadians who had fewer rights. That was us unvaccinated people. You know, we didn't have the same rights during COVID-19. That was not the rule of law. We were not equal before the law. And the other example, you may remember that SNC-Lavalin, the scandal, SNC-Lavalin, they were supposed to go in jail for what they did, but Trudeau wanted to have a negotiation with them, and he wanted them to pay fines and not go into jail. But if you're a small business here, and you do something wrong and you don't respect the criminal code, you won't have, a deal. You will go in jail and that's it. So at that time, the conservatives were saying, yes, it's okay. We must have a deal with SNC-Lavalin. I was the only leader of a national party that said, no, we don't want anybody above the law. And that's what we did to it. We said to SNC-Lavalin, you can be above the law, you won't go to jail. So we need to be back to the rule of law in our country. The second part of your question about World Economic Forum, the UN, the World Health Organization, they are organizations that are promoting socialism and that are promoting a world government. And, sorry?
I said diabolical.
Yeah, there's these kind of organizations. But why that philosophy? And we have here in Canada right now a government, and Trudeau is 100% with that philosophy and is implementing that in our legislation. We need to stop that. That's why we are the People's Party. That's why we are working for you, for the people, with the people. That's why we are promoting the sovereignty of our country first. That's why, like I gave you as an example, we won't sign the Paris Accord. We won't be part of that. The UN is a dysfunctional organization. I said that long time ago. Dysfunctional organization. And you know why? You know what? We can save $1 billion. This country is giving $1 billion every year to the UN to promote, and we are helping the UN to promote socialism, globalism all around the world. And here in Canada, we will save money because we will give money to the UN only if they promote our values. And I know that they don't do that, so we can save $1 billion there. So the UN, the World Economic Forum, all these organizations are not working for us. So that's why we are the only party that won't participate in their debates. We don't want to be part of that. We are too busy to promote our country and to promote our values and our freedom. So the answer to all these organizations is no, we don't want to deal with you. We don't want to do anything with you. And so that's why we will preserve our sovereignty and our heritage as a country.
So would that go as far as to not having chief medical officers appointed when they sit on those boards? And things of that nature?
Absolutely. I tweeted about that during the COVID-19. That, Tamara, what's her name? Tracy, not Tamara Leach. Tracy. Yeah, I said, we must tell her, please, go on, and we don't need you. Yeah. So, other question?
No more questions?
Small question.
Sorry?
The Arrive Canada Act.
Oh, yeah.
You know what, we couldn't attend our granddaughter's wedding a while back because we couldn't go. And now we again bought tickets, and last night I looked at the Arrive because our agent said we must look at that. And still, I don't want to go because I don't want to get fines when I get back. And he has to do 2 weeks, or we have to do 2 weeks quarantine. Our business cannot afford that.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, Arrive Canada, my advice to you, don't download that app. But yes, you can tell me, Maxime, if I don't download the app and I want to come back to Canada, I may have a fine of $5,000. Absolutely. But that would be illegal and unconstitutional. And they did the same strategy. Fear. They did that during COVID-19. Don't go to that rally, you have 2,000 fines. And I had for 15,000 fines during COVID-19 for all the rallies that I did. You know what was the cost for me? 0. Yeah, they are postponing that. I won't pay. They know that it's illegal, and they don't want to have a legal precedent that is saying all that is illegal. They don't want that. So what they're doing, they're postponing and withdrawing their tickets. So that's a strategy. And so, yes, there's a risk. But that's illegal and unconstitutional. And you know why? All our personal information, personal data, they can use that, they can give that to another department in Ottawa. The next fight that we'll have to do in this country is to preserve our privacy. With all the new technology, they can spy on us, and they did it. We just learned that the RCMP spy on members of parliament in 2017 without asking the court before, by using a new technology. If your phone, you turn off your phone, there's no problem for them. They can go and look at all your contacts, everything, listen to your conversation, everything. The technology is there today. So we must fight that. And for Arrive Canada, we don't know. This it will be confidential, blah, blah. We don't know. We don't have any details about that. So we need to fight to preserve our privacy. So speaking about Arrive Canada, I said there's 2 fights, the one in the court and the one in the public opinion. The Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms is doing that fight right now. They have a couple of cases in front of the court against Arrive Canada. And I believe that they will win that. But me personally, my wife liked to go to Florida during winter, 2 or 3 weeks. So if we're going to Florida this December, when I will cross the country, I don't know the Arrive Canada. If they give me a 5,000 fine, I won't pay it, and I will fight it. So it's so important to fight for our rights. You're absolutely right. We don't need to do that, and that's coming from the World Economic Forum. That's coming from the World Economic Forum. Yeah.
So take this a little bit, another step further. Okay, like I said, I worked in federal corrections.
Listen, that one is a good one.
So, if an inmate assaults an officer, and that officer has to go to the hospital to be treated, the inmate does not have to disclose his medical history so that officer can be treated appropriately.
Because you don't know if that inmate can have the SIDA or other things.
He can have AIDS, he can have anything, and if they are not legally bound to share that information with the officer, but yet we have to share it with the government in order to travel? So who's the inmates here? Us or the actual offenders?
Kelly, it's the same provincially too. I work at the provincial center.
There you go, same thing provincially. So, I mean, you have to sit there and ask yourself, again, what are we doing here?
Well, it does say on the Arrive Can app that you give this information voluntarily.
Right.
So,
But that's what I'm saying. It's voluntary, but they're going to find you.
Yeah.
yes, that's all it means. Like you don't have to give it, right?
You don't have to, but if you don't,
I know you get
yeah,
a fine.
yeah.
Or you cheat.
Don't, yeah, yes.
I'm a landed immigrant here. I'm an American citizen who lives here for the last 25 years. I went to see my elderly mother and had to be vaccinated, unfortunately, just to see her. I hadn't seen her in 7 years. And so I did fill out the Arrive Camp because as a non-citizen, they weren't even guaranteeing that I could get back in the country. I could fly into the States unvaccinated because I'm an American, but I could not come back here unvaccinated, was what I understood. So,
No, you can't.
Yeah, you're more at risk because if you have your Canadian passport,
yeah.
the only thing that they can ask you to come back to your country is your passport. That's the only thing. So if you don't have a passport, you are more at risk. Yeah.
But that's that predatory behavior that I was telling you about. The predatory, they're going to keep you in fear at what cost?
Yeah.
We're going to give you a $5,000 fine. Well, who can afford a $5,000 fine?
Yeah.
they don't let foreigners in that are not vaccinated. My children cannot come visit me.
I know.
That's
But the refugees from Ukraine, from the state of New York, they will come.
Okay, I'm just going to quote. Lawyers at TDF argue that the federal government has not followed its own procedure for mandating Arrive Canada. They further argue that the Quarantine Act does not confer jurisdiction on the government to compel persons entering Canada to disclose intimate details about their health and personal choices under the threat of fines or imprisonment. Finally, they argue that the mandatory disclosure of personal information is an unreasonable and unjustifiable infringement against the privacy interests which are protected by the Canadian Charter of Rights.
Yes, I'll tell you an anecdote about that. 3 months ago, a friend of my wife, young lady, maybe 38 years old, she decided to go to Florida for a month by car. She didn't have, and she's not vaccinated. She was not vaccinated, she's still not vaccinated. So she decided after that to come back to cross the border by car. And at that time, they were asking for having a negative COVID test and also, the Arrive Canada. And so she didn't download the Arrive Canada. She didn't do a COVID negative test, and she's not vaccinated. She crossed the border, and they asked her, "Do you have your passport? Passport? Are you vaccinated?" She said, "I don't want to tell you that. That's my personal information." And the guy said, "Okay, take your car and go over there." And she said, "No, I'm going home. I'm going home. Thank you, bye-bye." She took her passport and she went home. She went home. That's it.
There's lots of documented cases of that happening now. Lots, way more,
Yeah.
particularly at the land crossings.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
Yes.
What is the position, like on the environmental issues that is the next big cloud that we're being cloud? Okay, how are you gonna fight that? The environmental issues?
We did fight that when we created the PPC in 2018 on climate change. That's the emergency, and the climate will change. That will be the end of the world. No, we are saying no since the creation of that party. And actually, why now Trudeau try to kill our oil and gas industry? Now he tried to kill our farmers with that new, goal to reduce green gas emissions by 30% coming from fertilizers. That's because of the Paris Accord. You just have to say no to the Paris Accord. That's it. You say no to the UN, to the Paris Accord. For us, we don't have anything on climate change. We won't have any policy on climate change. If a province wants to do something on climate change, they can do what they want. But us at the federal level, we won't do anything for that. There's so many reforms, so many actions that we can do, concrete actions for the environment. We still have lakes that are polluted. We can do a lot for the environment, but we won't play that game of climate change. And so the conservatives are playing that game. They will sign the Paris Accord, and Poliev maybe will impose the same goal for our farmers. They know better than a politician what to do and a bureaucrat. And nitrogen is very expensive. Do you believe that they're putting that everywhere? No, it's expensive. They want to be profitable. So they're using that only to grow and to be sure that they will have more food. So less fertilizer, less food, prices will go up. That's a very bad policy right now because we have inflation. So what Trudeau is doing, adding more oil on the inflation fire. So yes, we are fighting that. And if your farmers are in the street, on the street somewhere, like I did with COVID-19, I'll be with them. I'll fight with them. Thank you.
This is not a question, it's a statement. Justin Trudeau is the headache his mother never had.
Yeah.
Going back to the Paris Accord, Max, is it true that there's only two of you that, like, you abstained and Cheryl Glenn said no? Is that the only two in our entire federal government that stood up for Canadians?
No, it's not true because I was not in Parliament when they had that bill. I didn't win my election at that time.
Okay.
I was not re-elected. But yes, you're right. No, sorry. Okay, that was after the leadership contest. Okay, I remember that. After the leadership contest in 2017, that was a leadership contest. I didn't win as a leader of the Conservative Party with 49% of the vote. I stayed in the party for 13 months, tried to speak with the establishment and Andrew Scheer to tell them, you take some of our ideas, they are very popular. But Scheer told me, no, Maxime, my goal is to be elected as Prime Minister at the next election, the election of 2019. So I won't take any of your ideas because they're not popular. That's it. That's why they're doing politics based on survey. So after the leadership, fall of 2017. Yes, you're right. We had a vote on the Paris Accord in Parliament. And yes, I'm the only one who said no. And another conservative, I was conservative at that time, and another conservative didn't vote. But Andrew Scheer, with the vote, and every conservative voted in line with the Paris Accord, except me and another that I don't remember.
Cheryl Glenn.
That's it. But she didn't vote. She didn't have the courage to go there and vote against it. Yes, I did it. And after that, in 2019, I didn't win as a leader of the PPC.
I want that to be known because that's a big piece of what we're fighting. They set shit up, pardon my language, 5 to 10 years beforehand, and then they donk you on it. And I believe that your platform doesn't allow for that.
No. That's another way. I'm serious when I'm telling you, if you don't like our platform, don't vote for us. That's it. Because the platform won't change. We want to offer a real alternative to Canadians, a real populist, smart populist, common sense political party, and we will speak about what we believe until we win the argument. And I can tell you that's for me, it's a nice challenge. When you can see that you are able to move the public opinion, I'm not alone. It's all the freedom fighters, the truckers, and everybody. Now they won't admit that we were right, but we were right. James also. I don't know if it's James Todd. James, walk across the country, and he was supposed to be crazy and blah blah. He did that for the cause. He didn't win any money to do that. He did that for the cause, and that's great. And we were, and also Kelly was in Ottawa. I think you walked 150 kilometers with him. 150 kilometers with him. I walked that day when he decided when he was in Ottawa. I think I walked 25 kilometers with him. But that was great what he's doing. We need, it was a real grassroots movement. And I see our party like a grassroots movement.
What was interesting about that march, so Maxime joined us that day. So James and I were talking the day before. We were doing 27 kilometers the day before. And if you understand how we were marching, so we weren't just walking into Ottawa. We were doing it military style with a full rucksack. So my rucksack weighed about 55 pounds for that whole 100 and some kilometers. On the day before our last day, James and I were talking as we were marching. And Kelly, how is this going to turn out? Like, how many people do you think are going to show up? We don't know. We just didn't know. And one of the interesting things about it is James, all the VIPs were supposed to report to me that wanted to join in on the march. So
they wanted a photo op.
They wanted a photo op because Pierre Poilievre got hold of me. And me of all people, right? Maxime, his lieutenant, shows up. First of all, he's 2 hours late, and then he shows up and he walks with us for about 500 yards. That's it. Out of almost a 25 kilometer day. But we showed up that morning, and there was about 200 people that were joining us at the start of our march that day. And James and I looked at each other, wow, this is great, we're excited. We got started marching through the city. We got to a point where we were about 2.5 kilometers away from the downtown. from
the
the
end
center.
of the walk.
Right, to the end of the walk. And we were coming into this park. And when we walked into that park, it was such a big crowd. When we left, our marchers were up to 5,000 people. Okay. What's interesting is, so we're marching, and so we hear, and I'm doing this job for James, and I'm keeping an eye on everybody, and we hear, oh, there's a medical emergency up front, we need to stop. So we stop, and we've got everybody in formation, military formation, 3 ranks, 3 rows of people, and this line went for about 1.5 kilometers, 2 kilometers long. So we stopped, and we're trying to figure out what's going on, and all of a sudden I see James with his security team running to the back. And okay, I never really thought much of it. He got to the back, and now he's running to the front, and I see this big grin on his face. We didn't have a medical emergency. He just wanted to see how big this crowd was that joined him. Because he was overwhelmed. You saw the pictures of him when he got to the tube. He was so overwhelmed with the support that we had. But what's interesting, the truckers showed up to Ottawa. Maxime was there to support the truckers. Okay? They shut that down. Please shut that down. The bikers showed up to Ottawa. The police shut that down. Well, all of a sudden now you've got veterans. Well, what are we trained to do? We're trained to march. We're trained to walk into our situation. The police did not know what to do with us. We had Maxime with us that full day. He was the only federal leader that stayed with us that full day. But because the police didn't know what to do with us, they closed off a whole road to us and gave us free access into downtown. And we marched unimpeded by the police. What does that tell you? You can stop us from driving in, you can stop us from biking in, you're sure not going to stop us from walking in. And that's what we did. But like I said, Maxime was the only leader that stayed with us for the 25 kilometers. And again,
that was a great experience.
It is, and like I said to everybody, a true leader will march a mile in your shoes. Maxime, teach that.
Yes.
I get questions about, I just wanted to mention this, about Joseph Burgo. He ran for the Conservative leadership, he lost due to corruption or whatever. Now he's trying to start a federal party. I'm getting questions every day about what will that affect the PPC and how will it, will there be more votes?
No, there's no.
We
were like a team marching together toward our goal, and nothing will stop us. We will grow. We will grow. We will always be focused on our convictions, and we will grow. So our growth won't come only for former conservative voters. I'm traveling across the country. I can tell you, I was in Halifax. I did a speech in Halifax. A nice old lady, hippie, 72 years old, well, not so old. She came to me and she said, "Oh, Maxime, I like everything that you said. Everything, except when you said, we are the only real conservative party." And she said, "I don't like that, because I voted NDP all my life, and now I'm voted for you. I don't want Maxime to say that again. You're a common sense party, a real common sense party." And I said, man, you're right. We are a real common sense party, and that's why we can attract people that voted NDP and Green also. But a lot of people also that never voted at the federal level, because they were saying all these political parties and politicians are all the same, they're saying something and they will do the opposite, and I don't trust them. But we are different. When I have the opportunity to explain how we are doing politics, it's yeah, that's great. It's bizarre. Doing politics based on conviction, speaking about something that is not popular, that's something special and different. And so we are able to attract people that never voted and are voting for the first time at the federal level. So that's why our growth can come from former conservative, former NPD, people who never voted, and so we will grow. Thank you.
We will talk more about it afterwards, one-on-one if you want. I've talked to Joseph and his team, so we'll talk some more about that.
Yes.
Why, I'm conservative so far.
Yes. So far.
And
You own conservative values. I understand
yeah,
that. Same thing for me.
conservative values, but I'm very disappointed in the Conservative Party.
I was also, and I'm still. Yeah.
And I see them waffling on so many issues and won't stand.
Yeah.
Why are they not, these guys that 5 years ago stood on things they're not?
Because it's not popular. I try to tell you. It's not popular. They want to be elected and re-elected. That's the only goal. They don't want to inform or educate the population. They're doing a poll. That's not popular. I won't do anything. They will speak about something when they will have 35 or 45 to 50% of support. They will have the courage to speak about it, because they will have to have maybe only another 10-15% to have the huge majority. They don't do politics based on conservative values. They're not fighting for you. Please wake up and smell the coffee.
You know what they're doing, quite honestly? Where is the base of the Conservative Party right now? It's in the West here.
Yeah.
Right? They're trying to appease, like Max said, Quebec and Ontario and the GTA. They're taking your vote for granted. They're saying we don't have to worry about what the West want. We already know that they're gonna vote for us. So we're gonna focus over here.
And when we think that they won't vote for us, we're going to do a big ad campaign during the election. Don't vote for Bernier, we'll split the vote. We're going to use fear to tell them, don't vote for Bernier. That's the only argument, a fake argument that they have. And that's what they did at the last election. We were growing in out west here, and now they came back for 3 days before the election. It was everywhere. Don't vote, you split the vote, you will have Trudeau, blah, blah, blah. And they use fear. And I believe that you are intelligent. And I believe it won't happen next time.
I want to